All right, so ready to dive into a new thriller.
Always.
Today, we're looking at Bloodline, the new one by Priscilla Masters.
Oh, yeah, I just finished that one.
And just, full disclosure for our listeners, we'll be pulling from the book itself.
Yep, straight from the source.
But, big but,
Huge.
we're going to keep this deep dive spoiler-free.
Absolutely no spoilers.
Think of it like,
Like a little taste test.
exactly, to make you hungry for more.
You'll have to read it to get the full meal.
Deal.
So, what really grabbed me about Bloodline is how it starts off so, I don't know, normal.
Oh, yeah, deceptively normal.
You've got Joseph Holden, this elderly guy, living in this,
Mansion. Don't forget the mansion part.
cloud mansion. And it's packed with all these artifacts, from his travel.
Like he's trying to recreate a museum or something.
You get the feeling there are stories behind every object.
Like Holden's got a whole secret past just waiting to be uncovered.
Exactly. Then bam, hostage situation.
Yeah, talk about a sudden shift in tone.
Total whiplash. And the guy behind it all, Abdi Daud, a Somali professor.
Okay, wait, Professor. That doesn't exactly scream hostage taker.
Right. So it's such a great contrast.
Makes you wonder what could push someone like that to such extremes.
And there's this added layer. You find out that Abdi, he seems to know the lead detective, Joanna Piercy.
Way back.
Yeah, like there's some history there. Unfinished business, maybe?
Definitely adds to the intrigue.
Oh, for sure. Masters knows how to lay those breadcrumbs.
Speaking of Joanna, she's actually just come back from maternity leave.
Oh, wow. So this hostage situation, that's her welcome back.
Pretty much. Talk about trial by fire.
And she's got her partner, Mike Korpansky. He's, recently back on duty himself after a pretty bad accident.
Oh, yeah, he's had a rough time.
But he's got that, witty cop persona down pat.
They're like the classic detective duo, The grizzled veteran and the
The eager beaver.
Exactly. But they work well together.
Their banter is great, even in the middle of all this tension.
It's like they've got this unspoken language, a shorthand from years of working together.
Makes you root for them, even when things get really dark.
Oh, and speaking of dark, let's get back to that connection between Abdi and Holden.
Ah, yes, the mystery deepens.
Masters hints that it all goes back to the Ogaden region in Somalia.
Oh, man. Now that's a place with some heavy history.
Conflict, political turmoil, you name it.
What were they both doing there? Now that's the question.
And then there's this dagger, a Somali Qolxad.
Beautiful weapon, rhino horn handle, the whole 9 yards.
Holden sold it at some point, and somehow it ends up with Abdi.
Chekhov's dagger, you know it's going to come into play.
Big time. But then Masters throws in another curveball.
Hit me with it.
Clarice Hani, Holden's housekeeper. Quiet, unassuming.
Seems harmless enough.
Until you find out she's Abby's half-sister.
Whoa, hold on, what?
Yeah, suddenly everything's a bit more complicated.
Is she working with Abdi? Against him? What's her angle?
Masters keeps you guessing, that's for sure.
She's like a wild card in the whole situation.
And you start to pick up on these themes of, like, guilt and retribution,
It's like Holden's past is coming back to haunt him.
Those artifacts in his house, they're not just souvenirs anymore.
More like skeletons in the closet.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole atmosphere of Cloud Mansion gets heavier, more oppressive.
You can practically feel the walls closing in.
And amidst all this, there's Holden's neighbor, Doreen Caputo.
Oh, yeah, she's the one who notices something's off.
Like an everyday observer who gets caught up in this whole mess.
Masters does a great job using those little details to build the tension.
The ticking clocks, the shadows in the mansion.
Yeah.
You're right there with them.
You're practically holding your breath waiting to see what happens next.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, folks.
Barely scratched the surface.
We've met the players, gotten a taste of the atmosphere, but the real meat of the story.
The whys and the hows.
All that's waiting for you in the pages of Bloodline.
Seriously, we're just setting the stage here.
This is just the appetizer.
You gotta dig in to get the full experience.
And trust me, it's a meal you won't forget.
Remember that whole shared history thing between Holden and Dad? Well, things get a lot more interesting as we learn more about Holden's past.
Oh yeah, he wasn't always the reclusive mansion guy, was he?
Not even close. Turns out he was Army staff sergeant back in the late 80s.
So we've got ex-military, secretive artifacts. Seems like he's running from something.
It definitely makes you wonder, right? And this is where the Ogaden region comes in.
Somalia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super volatile area, tons of conflict, political tension, the whole shebang.
So what was Holden doing there? Was he like peacekeeping or something?
Masters doesn't spell it all out right away. It keeps you guessing, but we get some clues from this art dealer, Pargeter.
Pargeter.
Yeah, he knew Holden after the army days, and he hints that Holden was good at, let's say, acquiring rare stuff, especially in those conflict zones.
Okay, so maybe Holden wasn't just following orders. Maybe he was playing the game a little differently.
Could be. And then you have these flashbacks Holden keeps having, like these vivid nightmares.
Oh man, those were intense.
Burning villages, murders. You can feel the fear and violence in those scenes.
And there's this sense that Holden feels guilty about something, like he's carrying a huge burden.
You start to wonder, is that guilt tied to the hostage situation? Is Daud going after Holden for something that happened back in Somalia?
It's like the past is finally catching up with him.
And Daud, he's not just some desperate guy seeking revenge. He's smart, methodical, like he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
So there's more to his plan than just grabbing Holden.
Way more. And remember Joanna, our detective, who's juggling everything.
Yeah, new mom, back on the job, hostage situation, poor woman.
As she digs deeper, she starts dealing with her own issues too, like the weight of responsibility, making the right call, all that.
The case is messing with your head on top of everything else.
It's like a reflection of her internal struggles.
And what about Clarice? Abdi's half-sister? She's still a mystery.
Their connection goes deeper than just family, though.
You mean like emotionally?
It's like they can communicate without even speaking. Shared history, secrets, that kind of thing.
That's kind of creepy, but also fascinating.
Definitely keeps you on your toes trying to figure out where her loyalties lie.
And the tension at the mansion keeps building, right? You know something bad's going to happen.
The longer it goes on, the more dangerous it gets.
Then, bam, another twist.
Oh, tell me.
Joanna finds out that Daud might have taken the same hostage negotiation course she did.
No way!
No, right? Like, was he there to learn or to study her?
Mind games. He's playing mind games with her.
It's chilling. Makes you question everything about him.
What does he really want? From Holden, from Joanna, what's the end game?
And the line between who's good and who's bad starts to blur as we get closer to the truth.
Holden's past, Dad's motivations, it's all tangled up together.
And you just know something's going to break, someone's going to get hurt.
Masters leaves you with this feeling of unease, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So it's dawn at Cloud Mansion, and things are coming to a head.
Yeah, Joanna knows time is running out, so she makes the call to send in the armed response team.
High-stakes move, talk about pressure.
You've got this elite squad, led by Zach Livingston, and they're going in blind, practically.
Dowd's not your average hostage taker either, remember? He's smart, maybe even prepared for them.
It's like a cat and mouse game. Every move could be their last.
You're reading, and you can practically feel the tension as they move through the house, room by room.
Then they find Clarice. She's terrified, but okay.
But Holden's gone.
Vanished.
And just like that, the whole story shifts. It's not about the raid anymore. It's about Holden and Daud.
It's like their past is this ticking time bomb.
Masters takes us right into that confrontation inside the mansion. It's almost claustrophobic.
You're right there with them, listening as Holden. He's weak, vulnerable. He starts talking about Somalia.
And the truth comes out, all the horrible stuff he did, the raid on the village, the violence, the looting.
He admits to it all, and you can feel the weight of his guilt. It's like a confession.
But then Daud drops the real bomb.
And everything changes.
He tells Holden that he's the son of the village chief, the one whose wife Holden assaulted.
Oh, God.
Talk about a gut punch, right? Suddenly, Dowd's motives make so much more sense.
It's not just revenge. It's about justice, about holding Holden accountable for what he did.
It makes you question everything. Good and evil, the ripple effects of violence, how the past can come back to haunt you.
And Daud, he doesn't just lash out. He wants Holden to face the consequences, to feel the weight of his actions.
Demanding a reckoning.
Joanna's stuck in the middle of all this. She's got to uphold the law, but she's also human.
You can see her struggling with it, the duty, the empathy. It's a tough spot to be in.
And then Daud, he throws out this crazy idea. He wants to take Holden back to Somalia.
To face judgment from his people.
It's almost unthinkable, but it shows how deep Dowd's pain runs.
He wants real justice, even if he has to break the rules to get it.
And that's where the story ends. We're left hanging, wondering what will happen.
It's a cliffhanger, pure and simple. Will Daud pull it off? Will Holden face justice? What about Clarice?
Masters leaves all these questions unanswered. You can't help but think about it long after you've finished the book.
It's not just a thriller. It's a story about the human condition, about the consequences of our choices.
It makes you think about what you would do in that situation, how far you would go for justice.
Bloodline is definitely a must-read if you're into those kinds of stories. The ones that keep you up at night.
And this deep dive, it was just a taste, a little appetizer to whet your appetite.
The real deal is waiting for you in the pages of the book.
So go grab a copy, settle in, and prepare to be blown away.
You won't regret it.
And that's it for our deep dive into Bloodline, folks.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new book, so stay tuned.
Until then, keep reading.